Deadly peaches, tainted chicken nuggets, and hash browns laced with golf balls? From the alarming to the downright weird, Wegmans has had some pretty unforgettable food recalls over the years. Wegmans removed 4 varieties of raw chicken from its shelves in 2016. According to a press release by the USDA, the grocery retailer processed the poultry without the government agency conducting a safety inspection beforehand. Wegmans then shipped the pre-seasoned meat without approval to its stores. What went wrong here? Basically, the company broke protocol. It didn't commit to manufacturing the meat during the allotted hours it had agreed to, which meant the Food and Safety Inspection Service wasn't able to assess that the meat was safe to eat. It's a risky practice. What if a customer were to come down with listeria or break out into hives from an undisclosed ingredient?
The hive life isn't for everyone.
The recall ultimately led to over 1,000 pounds of meat being disposed of. Shoppers were instructed to return the chicken to any store, a move that likely explains why there were no reported illnesses. In 2012, a staggering 31,000 pounds of raw spinach were tossed by Wegmans after it was found the veggies were tainted by E. coli. Though initial cases of exposure emerged out of New York, the bacteria sprang up in 5 additional states, resulting in 33 illnesses by the end of the outbreak. The strain of E. coli Wegmans detected was O157H7. Essentially, whenever there's a public health panic involving contaminated food, this is the variant you're most likely to encounter. Many will find themselves out of the woods after about a week of symptoms, but the danger of complications goes way up for young ones and the elderly. Of the customers who ate the tainted vegetables, about a dozen recovered in the hospital. Peach lovers probably avoided Wegmans in August 2020 when a salmonella outbreak tied to peaches spread across 17 states. Prima Wawana, a produce supplier from the West Coast, dispatched the tainted fruit to the retail chain. 2-pound bags of peaches, along with pieces available for self-serve picking, were the primary focus of the recall. The rollback also targeted a selection of desserts, since Wegmans Bakery utilizes the fresh fruit in many of its recipes. Thankfully, no fatalities were reported from the contaminated fruits. And to its credit, Wegmans handled the crisis well by welcoming returns and tracking down patrons via phone. In late 2023, the Quaker Oats Company found itself caught up in a frenzy due to a salmonella outbreak. The illness, linked to a manufacturing center in Danville, Illinois, potentially tarnished dozens of the company's products, including granola bars and cereals. A formal recall was announced on December 15, 2023, but the company issued a follow-up on January 12, 2024 to account for additional items the bacteria might have contaminated. Overall, around 60 products were pulled from shelves. How does Wegmans relate to one of the largest-scale food recalls in recent memory? As it turns out, the grocery outlet was involved in the second round of cuts to the brand's lineup. On January 11, 2024, Wegmans took action by getting rid of Quaker Oatmeal's Square cereal.
Because at Quaker, we only make oats for you.
The problem with salmonella is that when it comes to food, there are no visible signs that something might be wrong. This makes swift action necessary to prevent mass illness, if not casualties. First Source, one of Wegmans' numerous distributors, triggered a massive recall in October 2017 that extended to 23 states and several major supermarkets. Shoppers at Tops and other stores were told to dispose of dark chocolate, both prepackaged and from the self-serve department. The recall was due to labeling issues, as the company neglected to advertise that milk was one of the ingredients featured in chocolate-coated nuts, fruits, and coffee beans. For prepackaged snacks, customers were advised to toss out any qualifying items regardless of the date on the bag. Half of the bagged goods gathered in the recall were exclusive to Wegmans. Seeing as milk is one of the FDA's major allergens, failing to mention it could have posed a serious risk to shoppers who are sensitive to dairy. It only takes little exposure to unleash a physical response. In 2006, Bird's Eye Foods, a popular brand at Wegmans, took its frozen winter squash out of circulation because it was contaminated with ammonia. Health officials managed to trace the harmful chemical back to batches originating from the supplier, prompting Bird's Eye Foods to halt production on the vegetables immediately. Since ammonia is notoriously harsh-smelling, customers presumably caught on to the terrible odor right away before they could do any cooking. At the end of the day, the toxin plagued 3 million baggies on the market. In 2021, supermarket chains across the U.S. were battered by the Tyson Foods listeria outbreak. The outbreak led to the recall of nearly 9 million pounds of poultry and resulted in 3 infections, one of which was fatal. Wegmans joined the chorus of recall announcements that July, urging customers to throw away any Tyson chicken products they had in their freezers. The suspicion that Listeria was to blame was confirmed when health experts tested some of the brand's products and came back with a positive result. Wegmans was thrown into another gigantic E. coli outbreak in 2007 after discovering one of its processing plants churned out bacteria-riddled meat. Cargill Meat Solutions Corporation sounded the alarm to consumers, pulling the contaminated meat from shelves and urging shoppers to dispose of it.
Where's the beef?
Wegmans typically issues memos on its recalls, but this time was different. The meat involved had been sold before the processor made the recall announcement in November, so it was especially crucial for shoppers to double-check their purchased items. What was the grand total Cargill racked up in this debacle? About 1 million pounds of ground beef. That said, the pattern of contaminated meat appears to have continued for the company well into 2024. In 2011, 5,000 pounds of Wegmans Turkish pine nuts were recalled from supermarkets in 5 states after Sunrise Commodities, a New Jersey processing plant, confirmed that the nuts were contaminated with salmonella. In fact, it took the CDC to get the ball rolling in removing them from stores on account of so many of the illnesses overlapping. For the most part, prepackaged bags on shelves were considered safe. The real issue came from loose nuts in the bulk section, which were the primary focus of the recall. In total, 42 people got sick, with 2 ending up in the emergency room. In the summer of 2020, Wegmans had to issue a recall on various citrus fruits sold at their locations. Listeria monocytogenes had wormed its way into stocks of Valencia oranges and lemons, and in August, the chain advised customers who purchased the fruit to return it for a refund. No surprise, the culprit behind the contamination ended up being one of the retailer's suppliers, Fresh House Produce LLC, which quickly pulled the contaminated fruits from shelves. The affected varieties were packed in 2-pound and 4-pound pouches and included any loose lemons that were available for self-bagging. While the recall mainly focused on citrus fruits, the company expanded the effort to include prepared foods like seafood entrees. This is because, like many supermarkets, Wegmans makes uncooked dishes using ingredients that are already in stock. After all, how many hacks for cooking fresh fish rely on zesty lemon wedges? So the lemons had to be tossed out completely.
Yes, I know you hate lemons.
On St. Patrick's Day 2023, Wegmans flagged 2 kinds of Impossible brand frozen nuggets for containing inedible materials. Impossible moved first in halting distribution when an inspection revealed chunks of wood had been mixed into their inventory. This sent supermarkets into overdrive to scrap the affected batches. Wegmans followed suit, telling its shoppers to search their freezers for both Impossible chicken nuggets and Impossible wild nuggies in 13.5-ounce packs. Thankfully, for a recall affecting all 50 states, the impact was meager, as the intrusive objects didn't seem to cause any injuries. But just to be safe, the company pushed ahead and proceeded in weeding out the 22 batches anyway. In 2022, a salmonella contamination in leafy salads led to a Wegmans recall, with products like organic baby kale and baby spinach with sweet pea leaves being pulled from stores. Bio365, the farming operation behind the processing, affirmed that the strain was present in the dirt used to grow the produce. The recall branched off into 7 states and was concentrated in the mid-Atlantic and northeastern regions of the U.S. Thankfully, no customers were reported to have been affected by the contaminated products. At the same time the Tyson food scandal was going on, Wegmans shelves were dealt another blow to food safety. Salmonella-tainted salami sticks made their way into Trader Joe's locations in the fall of 2021, and Wegmans joined the recall just days after plans were announced by the CDC to dispose of almost 120,000 pounds of the cured meat.
Damn salami.
How did it all go down? After several illnesses were reported to the CDC, the potential link was confirmed when the California Department of Health conducted testing and found the bacteria in samples. In addition to Wegmans and Trader Joe's, the salami was also present in mom-and-pop markets, including wine shops and bakeries. A total of 10 states were affected by the outbreak, with 34 reported illnesses linked to the contamination. In April 2017, a bizarre packaging error affected the grocery stores Harris Teeter and Roundy's, thanks to McCain Foods USA Incorporated. Various types of frozen hash browns delivered to the stores by the distributor were found to contain crushed-up golf balls, sparking a swift recall by the company and FDA over concerns of choking. Because plenty of retailers share suppliers, it didn't take much time to trace the mistake back to the potatoes at Wegmans, where 28-ounce bags of the O'Brien hash browns were pulled from shelves. How did sporting goods material get mixed up in breakfast buds? Given that McCain Foods didn't provide a concrete answer, it's still very mysterious. Thankfully, however, nobody got hurt.